The biggest battle we will ever have to face is the battle between you and you. It's the battle of taking your mind to that limit and then breaking through. On the Mindful Experiment podcast, we will share concepts, universal laws, and interviewing individuals who have done just that, who have gone through the dark times and through those moments allowed their light to shine bright. I'm your host, Dr. Vic Manzo, and I want to thank you for listening to the podcast and taking this journey with me as we discover different avenues to break through those limits, expand your reality, and evolve into the person you desire to be. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome. And this is Dr. Vic, and you are listening to the Mindful Experiment. It's great to have you on as we dive in deep. This is something that I love to share about every week, an insight, conversation, or just something that came to me through a meditation that I know that would add value to your life, or I'll be able to help you become more aware of something that it has done for me. It's kind of like my sharing. I learned something new or experienced something, and I want to share that because I know it can help in some way. In this episode, I really wanted to talk about the curriculum of Earth. Earth, in the spiritual realms, talks about how this is a big soul university, and that in the soul university, this Earth is just one of those things where it's a university for souls to expand, massive expansion and evolution and growth through the physical realms. And it can happen in many different forms. It doesn't just have to be human. It could be dog or horse, a monkey, whatever. There's an experience that they're going to gain from that aspect, that life that you live as a soul. And taking that principle, the curriculum of life in the human realm is going to be the relationships and things that we deal and face with on a daily basis. It's the things that show up, and what we do with it is what's going to matter. In life really doesn't have any meaning. It really doesn't. The only meaning life has, the meaning that you put on it. It's the stuff that you hold valuable to. It's the stuff of what you make it to be true. It's the story that you tell yourself to believe the reason why this is happening. And the more you believe that, the more you create that into the fabric of your reality to create it to be the existence of where you are today. In my life, I have let Earth in the situations, relationships, and circumstances and things that I have dealt with really be the teacher for me, because it's always the universe is always giving to you love, unconditional, infinite sourcing of love, always giving you everything that you need. And so if shit is hitting the fan in your life, know that you've been neglecting something that the universe is trying to make you become more aware of. That if things are happening where you may have some relationship stuff or something along those lines, it's the universe trying to help you become more aware, to go deeper and learn something that you really want to learn, the reason why you want to grow and expand. And it's going to come in subtle forms in the beginning. And then if you don't pay attention to it, it gets bigger and bigger forms of it. Whereas I always say, if you don't change, life's going to make you change. And that shows up in many different ways. So how can someone use Earth? How can you use circumstances? How can you use these things as your tool? Because these are going to be the greatest lessons that you can get out of life. You can't get this out of a book. You can't get this out of a podcast. You can't get this out of a workshop. You can grasp knowledge and information about it, but there's a difference between knowledge and experience. Experiential experiences is what is a game changer. I fell in the trap of thinking that knowledge was everything. Right? I was told knowledge is power. Information is power. The more you know, the better you can expand and grow, and all these other things. And so long story short, what ended up happening is I had a teacher tell me at 24, 25, would say, spiritual teacher would keep saying, no matter how much you know, you need experiences to create wisdom. Knowledge plus experience creates wisdom. And I was like, but I have this wisdom and these tools and this information, and I know about spiritual laws and universal laws and all these things, and I see how the world works and totally get it. But then you have to go through experiences. And I started to disconnect from knowledge. Not saying that's not important, because it is. But I had to make a moment in my life to disconnect a little bit from knowledge and start to let the circumstances and the curriculum of earth teach me, guide me, and let those nuggets be wonderful lessons, packages. I call them little packages, because when you open them up, man, you never know what you're getting. You never know how much lessons are going to come out of something. The most littlest, redundant, mundane thing that can happen in your life could be one of the greatest lessons to wake you up and make you become more aware. And so I started to look at this from different perspectives and say, okay, this happened in my life today. What can I do, or what am I missing? Number one, what are the things that I need to learn from this to grow? What's the universe trying to share with me, to teach me, to make me become aware, so that I can expand and grow into the person who I want to become? Let me give you an example. Let's say you want to become a millionaire, right? A lot of people want to have a ton of money. Money is the way that runs the world right now. And it's a big value that a lot of people worship, the dollar. And so when you look at money, if you want to become a millionaire, a lot of people think of the things of what they need to do and all this stuff. But what ends up happening is you miss the boat about who you have to be, right? And so let's say you're on this path to become a millionaire, and you don't have a lot of the beingness, the vibration, the frequency of being a millionaire. You don't have the consciousness and awareness of how a millionaire is. And so the universe, for the next 10 years of your life, is going to challenge you and create struggles and create lean years or lean months. And it's going to make you put situations in your life, because if you truly are telling the universe, hey, I want to become a millionaire, but you don't have the consciousness, you have poverty mindset and so forth, the universe has to make you aware of these things. And eventually you'll wake up enough when you have, as always, as I say, you have to be knocked down on your hands and knees and be sick and tired of being sick and tired before you go ahead and make a transformation. Before you say, I had enough. It's time to make that change. And so the universe is always going to provide to you, and it always gives you circumstances and situations to help you become aware. In my life, I focus heavily on communication. I'm not the best communicator. I don't think I'll ever will be. I am always looking to grow and expand in my communication. I learned that through communication, the better questions I ask, the better we can come together in unionship. And I learned this through being a chiropractor and asking patients questions. I learned this through being a coach and asking my clients questions, and learning how to ask questions more and explain later. And there's times where I fail. I'll go back to old programming, sharing information, knowledge, power, boom, let's share, right? Instead of asking the questions that matter most. Asking, what is the universe trying to tell me? What do I need to become aware of? What do you need to learn from the situation? And then what's the story you want to create from that? Because if you get anything out of this podcast today, the one thing is to remember is that life has no meaning. The only meaning life has is the one you put on it. And so no matter what situation you're dealing with in your life right now, no matter if it's good or bad, remember that's the meaning you're putting on it. No matter what happens or where you're at, maybe a business owner who can't, struggling to start, been working, grinding away 5-10 years and still not where you want to be, but you're still moving along that road. Maybe a struggle in a relationship. Maybe struggle with your kids. Maybe struggle with yourself. Dealing with self-worth or mindset stuff, whatever it may be. Ask the question of understanding of what is this supposed to show me? What am I supposed to learn? And the better you can tap into your intuition, the better you can take time in a quiet space, the more the answers will come to you. The more the answer is going to come out of nowhere and say, boom, here, this is what you're supposed to learn. And all of a sudden, one day you're going to be like, oh my God, I get it. I see it now. I see my fault. I see where I wasn't what I needed to learn. I see how the universe was trying to teach me something and help me become more aware. I see how that I was going to learn, or I needed to learn this one aspect of things. And it'll come in many different ways. It's hard to say it's going to come in one way because that's linear thinking, and your intuition is not linear at all. It's non-linear. So nonlinear just means it doesn't follow a repetitional pattern. It doesn't mean that a linear process means that if I do A, if I have A and I do B, I should get C. It's that type of a process. And really, health, universe, things in life really don't follow as much linear as possible. Some things do, some things don't. But in this case, what I'm chatting about, when it comes to intuition, there is no thing as linear. It's just going to come to you when you're ready for it. There's something called divine timing. The universal timing is another one I like to use. And it's just something that's going to show up when you're ready to get the message to take that action. But you have to be open. You have to receive. You can't blame others. You can't be a victim, right? You can't go into that triangle of disempowerment and really get into this place of thinking that I'm a victim or this happens to me because of X, Y, Z and all that. There's too much victimhood going on in this world. And I blame the Bible for that. If you're a religious person and Christian or Catholic, hey, this is more of a joke. But I heard this one time and I thought it was funny that they were talking about victimhood and they were saying, where did this come from? Where did this program develop in the conscious mind of humans? Where did this develop? And it was funny. Someone said the Bible. And I was like, this is going to be interesting. And when they went through explaining this on Adam and Eve, it made perfect sense because God came to Adam and said, hey, I told you weren't supposed to eat the forbidden fruit. What happened? Well, Eve made me do it, and she's the one that persuaded me. And so from that moment on, human consciousness started playing victimhood and blaming others. So I digress, but I thought that was kind of interesting. But getting back to, stop being a victim because everything happens to you, through you, not to you. The universe is always supplying what you need, what you want to become, giving you infinite love. If you really grasp and understand those concepts, then the question is, how can you ever be a victim if you're the one creating the story? How can you ever be a victim if life has no meaning except the meaning you put on it? How can you ever? So look at your life and look at where you are, and you got to be really honest with yourself. I'm talking really honest. If things aren't happening in the business the way you want it to, you got to look at yourself. Did you give yourself enough time? Did you give yourself enough consistency in the work that you need to be doing, in the direction that you need to go? Focusing your time and energy where it needs to go? Or you've been slacking off on things that are important? Look at a relationship. Marriage is the same thing, or a relationship is the same thing as a business. There is no difference. You got to constantly be working on it. You got to constantly be marketing yourself. You got to constantly be focusing on how to be a better person in that whole process. It's a two-way street, and you got to make sure that you're doing your part, right? So it's looking at the perspectives of your life and really getting straightforward with yourself and looking at what do I need to learn in every situation? If you're going through a divorce, what do you need to learn through that process? What did you miss that you didn't grasp then that you're learning now? No matter what hardship shows in life, there's always a beautiful lesson in it all. And it's only there to help you expand and grow. That's the story I tell myself. That's the meaning I put on it. Because no matter what, my goal is to know that the universe is always supplying and giving me all the infinite love possible. And when I know that anything that shows up in my life is something for me that I need to learn and grow and evolve. And I know that the more I look at that, the more that I'm going to expand and grow as a human being. Every year when my birthday comes, I reflect on who I was the year before. I started doing this, and I think it's really critical, and I highly recommend people to do this. Share on a video and save it of what you thought in the last year, of how your life went, where you're at mentally, how you've been doing, what are you happy about, what are you not happy about, how are you expanding and growing. And every year you record and look at that, because for me, I needed something to show how much I'm growing as a human being. I don't realize it, but I had a friend who put that right in my face one day in a good way, and was kind of just saying that when it came to my things that I was like, I'm not where I want to be and this and that. And then he sat me down and literally went through all the things that I've changed in the last year. And when I thought about that, I was like, holy cow, there's a lot that went on. And so I take time now to do that, just a reflection for myself to say, hey, we're moving in the right direction. I'm taking these lessons of what life is bringing to me and I'm learning from them, becoming more aware of what I need to become better at with myself. And when I say better, I mean just like creating more, allowing more of who I really am within to be shared, exposed, connecting more to my source energy, my source of who I am. And so the more you do this type of work, the more that you let life teach you the lessons and help you expand and grow. And from that process, it's going to allow you to grasp more of the beauty of what life has to offer. Because then every day is a teaching moment. And every day is there to give you a little bit of some love and allow you to know that there's always room for expansion and growth. And that the universe is always providing for you to be whoever you want to be. And it will bring the circumstances and experiences to you to allow you to achieve that. So that's what I got for today, guys. I hope you've had an amazing day. Thank you for checking out the podcast. If you have any questions, shoot a message at us at drvic@empoweryourreality.com. Check out in the show notes, I have a 1-week free session of where you can go ahead and just get some little bit of mindfulness. It's something small. It's nothing too crazy, not too in depth, but it gives you a little bit of some aspects to how to tap a little deeper into the essence of who you are and help you to take some time to slow down a little bit, connect with yourself, and really dive into these deeper questions to get those answers. Also, I have a private Facebook group, if you haven't seen, it's called Empowered Living with Dr. Vic. We are starting to put some energy into this and really expand the group. I try to post at least 3 to 5 times a week in there, concepts, things I may see, stories. I'm starting to do, and starting in July, I will be doing a Facebook Live every week in there to just share a concept and the tip. It'll be kind of for people of my tribe. You guys will be able to ask me questions live. I will be recording my podcast, Facebook Live at the same time, and you can chime in and ask questions. So something unique we're going to start evolving in July. So stay tuned. But anything, thank you again. If you thought the podcast was amazing, you like the episode, you like what we've been talking about, please shoot a review on iTunes. It helps us out drastically. I want to thank you again for tuning in. And until next time, keep rocking and rolling. Thank you for listening to the podcast. For past shows, please visit www.empoweryourreality.com. I hope this show inspired you and added to your life to help you on the journey to rediscover who you really are. To connect with us on Facebook, please visit www.facebook.com/Dr. Vic Manzo. Check us out on Twitter. The handle is Dr. Vic21. Follow us on Instagram, www.instagram.com/Dr. Vic Manzo. If you were inspired by the podcast, pay it forward by sharing it with someone who you know can benefit from it. Thank you again for listening to the Mindful Experiment podcast, sharing paths to help you rediscover your infinite potential.